Welcome everybody. I'm excited to show you a quick tutorial of my new app. You can see it's best11scouting.streamlit.app. So just put that into your browser and you'll be cooking. So basically, I'm just going to run you through just how to set everything up and just a very quick overview of what we have it here, this role ranking image, kind of like what that means. So first things first, select whether you want men's or women's leagues. After that, choose whatever league you want, and if you have men or women, these will only show you the men's or women's leagues that are loaded into the app. So select your favorite one. I've just selected Allsvenskan for now. And then select your season. I will have prior seasons loaded for the vast majority of leagues. Usually if Wyscout has the league covered in that season, going back to 2020, I have included it in my app. And then specifically for this role ranking image, we look at formation. So this is just what very, very, very rough and broad and very general formation players would put into. So you have just a few. The main reason I have these specific ones is that the presence of wingers versus not having wingers. So 4-2-2-2 doesn't have wingers, so it allows you to choose like 2 midfielders, 2 attacking midfielders, and 2 strikers, regardless, so you don't have any wingers. 4-2-3-1 is what we see here. 4-3-3 would be it has a defensive midfielder as opposed to the attacking midfielder that 4-2-3-1 has. 4-4-2 is pretty straightforward, and then 3-4-3 is so we can get 3 center backs, but we also keep full backs. I don't have, the wide midfielders because I still have the wingers loaded in there. So yeah, choose which one you want. We'll just keep this on 4-3-3 for now. This formation does not play a role in generating radars or in the scatter plots or anything. It's just for what we're looking at here, this role ranking image, and then also the table, which is the data that we see on this image. But the minimum minutes played is your sample size. So the league and the season in the minimum minutes played, that's your sample size for the whole app. This is the global sample size. So I have 900 will be the default because that's a pretty good minimum minutes threshold to begin with for everything. The lowest that it goes is 300, and then you can see it does not allow you to go below 300. I will then reset that back to 900. And then for the age range, again, this is for the table. So if you select U23 players, then for the radar generation, it'll be all players. It won't just be U23 players. But you can see here, if you want to have not U17, but U23, move the slider to 23, and then this image will update and say it's only U23 players. The reason why I have 0 as the lower age range is that Wyscout, when they don't have a player's age, they just put it as 0. So if you were to choose U23 players and you see a player that says 0 for their age, they could be U23, but they might not be. So, feel free to look them up. Usually Wikipedia will have player's age, and you can look them up. But if the Wyscout data doesn't have knowledge of the player's age, then my app isn't going to have knowledge of the player's age. So please don't contact me saying, oh, this player is, X number of years old, and it says it's 0, because that's not something I can change. But again, you can see it's updated this, but it won't be anything for like the radars or for the the scatter plot. So if you have U23 and then you decide you want a 26-year-old that you know the name and age of, you can then create a radar, even if you have 23 as the maximum age here. So next we have only expiring contracts. This defaults to no. You can change it to yes. If you change it to yes, there's something else pops up. We can say, I want to see all the players whose contracts expire on or before January 1st of 2025. And then this will update. You can see players out of contract by 25/25/01/01 per Wyscout, because again, this is from Wyscout. I think they scraped their transfer or their contracts from Transfermarkt. So please don't have any qualms with me if they are not correct, or if a player doesn't have a contract expiration date, then it just is loaded as 0. So they're not included in this at all. So that's why I default to no, so that you can just see, all of the players that meet our criteria. The top X number of players per role, I think this is fairly straightforward. I have a default to 5. If you go up to 13, for example, you can go up to 20. The image that you see will stop at 7, and that's because you can see how cluttered it looks now. I can't really put any more players below number 7, for attacking left back, because they'll kind of encroach on the text for the wide center back. So it stops at top 7. if you have more than 7. But this role ranking table, which again is the role ranking image, but in table format, does have all of these top 13 players. You can see here I've had defensive center back. So the next thing I want to mention, since I've talked about this a little bit, is the role score definitions and calculations. So if you go on the tab here, scroll over pretty much all the way to the right, you can see all the definitions that I have for all of these roles that you can create models for. And these are basically their weighted z-scores. The image does have some information. They're all weighted z-scores, and they might be, you can see here, normalized or not. We'll get to that in a second. But these are the weights for all these metrics. So for a ball-playing center back, you can see a blurb about what they think basically they are. A center back built for a possession system. They have to be comfortable on the ball, spray long passes, and then anchor build-up phases. So you can see just 10% weight on defensive duel win rate and just 10% weight on the aerial win rate. Whether or not you agree with this or not is, beside the point, because this is what my model is built for, and this is what is shown up on when you have the ball playing center back in like the role ranking image or table. It's 20% weight on long pass completion percent, 20% weight on the passes to final third, and the deep completions, progressive passes, and passes. But you can see definitions for all of these, all the possible roles that you can create with this app. And you can see them here visualized. And again, I was talking about top 13, but it's only top 7 on the image. The table has all 13. So then we get to the normalization. This basically is the raw scores are between 0 and 100 to begin with. But to get 100 for a raw score, the best player would have to have the top per 90 value for every single metric included in the model, that creates this inverted winger score or an advanced striker score. It is very difficult. So you can see the numbers are going to change here in a second. If you say, I don't want to normalize these scores, you can see the very raw ones. You see the best inverted winger just has a 77 out of 100, but they're still ranked number 1. It's because that means that they're not the number 1 player for every single metric included in the inverted winger score. So I normalize those as a default, and it goes from 0 to 100. It will keep the distribution of the non-normalized scores, and that is important because it's a little bit easier to read, as well as them keeping the distribution of scores and spreading it from 0 to 100. So that way, if you say, the best player for attacking left back is like a 65, people might be like, 65. You say, well, it's 100. It does look a little bit better, but you don't have to fret. It will keep the same distribution. So the relative distance between 100 to 75 will be the same as the relative distance of the non-normalized scores. You can see here from 77 to 61. So I think that is way more than enough math talk. So let's just finish this up. The final one the final filtering one that you can choose for this image is only certain nationalities. So if I just want to see, let's say, the Swedish players within Allsvenskan 2024, again, with meeting our minimum minutes threshold of 900, you see all this information on the notes is updated, and these are just Swedish players. If you also want to include Norwegians too, you're able to do that. You can include any number of nationalities that you want. You can take them out, or you could just say no, leave it blank. And you see here Sweden and Norway. So you can X that all out. You can also see all the countries loaded. And boom, we're back to our basic image. So after that, you can go through and see all the role positions. So within each role each position, we have a lot of different roles available. So you see here attacking right back. You also have attacking fullback. The reason why the fullbacks have either generalized fullback here, attacking fullback and inverted fullback, or just the right back. And if you go to left backs, just left backs. And so you can choose if you want to see general ones or position specific. And only fullbacks have the difference between right and left hard coded. Wingers, for example, don't. Center backs, I don't have that. I don't have left center backs versus right center backs. I just have center backs. The reason why I do for fullbacks is that's, I think, probably the only position I really truly felt like we needed to have these extreme hard coded, just keep the left backs on the left side, because you can have inverted wingers play on both sides. But to keep a little bit more realism, I added the option to choose just left backs or just right backs. But I've changed this here. Once you have gone through and you said, okay, I want to change all of these different roles. Then you can go through, click this update roles. Again, if you have any questions on what the roles mean and how they're calculated, roll score definitions and calculations tab is your guide. So you can see we've updated everything. And then the last thing with this table, the role rankings table and image is, do you want to create a one-team depth chart? So the default is no. So this gives you the full league. So what are the best players in all these different 11 roles in Allsvenskan this season? You could change that and say, I do want a depth chart. And you can see it's just going to be IEK to begin with. So you have just the top players for IEK in all these different roles. Again, 900 minutes played. They're normalized. And you would be able to just show the Swedish players within this depth chart as well. So you can say, what are the best IEK players with 900 minutes played that are Swedish? You can see I don't have any strikers there, but you are welcome to change this minimum minutes to whatever you want, lowered to 300. So you're able to kind of see a better depth chart, right? And all of these you can see here. So this is number 2. So that means that that Faraj is ranked as the number 2 playmaking striker compared to all Allsvenskan strikers with at least 500 minutes played. It does not take into account players that are or aren't Swedish for this. It doesn't take into account the expiring contracts, whether you have this as a yes or a no. So these are the global sample is the league, the season, and then the minimum minutes played, and then it'll be inherent on what position they are. It'll only compare to wingers, only compare to strikers, only compare to center midfielders, defensive midfielders, stuff like that. So then you can go in here. Why don't we just reset everything for ease? Don't care about having a depth chart or about having contracts expiring. You can see once it's running, it's now finished. And then you can see you can go into all roles. If you want to export this is all of the roles shown here. So every single player shown, but we have top 13. So it is the top 13 in each role as opposed to top 7. You're able to download this. Streamlit is really nice that you can download as a CSV, and it includes like their name, their team, the age, the roles, and their scores, and it'll show you if it's normalized or not. You can also sort on this, so you can see like all the different, the youngest players that are ranked in the top 7. And again, if you want to change it to top 5, we can do that. This table will then update because now it's the top 5, not the top 13. And then again, you can see it update if you change to 900 minutes and then click enter, or you can click run or something like that, and it updates again. So we have Allsvenskan 2024, 900 minutes played in the top 5 in each position. So after that, you're able to then create a player radar. You don't need to run, and figure out what player you want to generate the radar for from the table. You're able to go to this player list tab to kind of just click through these tabs. And this is every single player that Wyscout has within Allsvenskan 2024 that has played at least 1 minute. You can see this column, radar name, is what you would type or copy paste so that you're able to get these radars. And if you played around with any of my other apps, it's the same thing. You have to enter the player's name, and then you have to enter the player's age. So let's just go ahead. We'll just copy and paste. Azumana, he's 18. Copy, paste, type in 18. Click Submit Options. It's very important. Anytime that you change some of these things, you're going to have to click Submit Options. So the radar is generated. That is great. So now let's play around with a couple of the features here. You can change the colors, whether you want to be the benchmarking percentiles, which are these colors here. Here's the legend. We have elite, above average, average, and below average. Or you could just have them as the metric groups, which would be this here is kind of the passing, creation, goal scoring, like progression, and defensive. And so this is like a winger template, so a striker template. I think it's going to be the same, but you have like a center back template will look different. So they're just grouped into the metrics, and you can see these blank spaces are kind of what separates those metrics. I don't add text to show you what they are because I think it's pretty easy to interpret what they are if it's creation versus defensive. The data labels on the bars, that just shows here. You can see this is per 90 or percents. So this is short and medium pass completion percentage is 85.5. Defensive actions per 90, 6.51. Shot assists per 90, 1.18. You're able to then change that to the percentiles. Click Submit Options to run that. It'll update so you can see exactly what percentile the player is in these metrics. This last one here, the distribution label on the bars is yes or no. It's yes, this is the mean here. And again, if you go to the bottom of these notes, I have these little black dots in the middle are the mean, and then you have half a standard deviation above, half a standard deviation below. That basically just shows you where in the distribution they might fall. They loaded as is. You can say, no, I don't want them. Again, submit options. That will run. And it might look a little bit cleaner if you don't necessarily need that information. Quick note here, if you ever run into any issues where it's like, oh, we can't generate a radar, double check to see the name and age to make sure that they're correct. Sometimes Streamlit, when you type in 18 and you click submit options, it bumps up to 20 for some reason. I don't know why. So just double check everything. And if you see a bunch of like red text and it's saying like there's these error messages, honestly, a lot of the times you might go up to the top right here and say rerun, these three little dots, and then click rerun, and it should work. If not, it might be an actual bug in my code. Please reach out to me on Twitter. You can DM me, and I will get that sorted as soon as possible. The final thing is, do you want a pre-made radar or a custom one? Defaults to pre-made, so this is the pre-made one here. It's just the metrics that we have included, so short, medium pass, long pass percentage, smart pass, etc. You can say, I want to customize. Then you got to submit options, so it's a little bit two-step process to get a custom radar. So you click custom, submit options, and then we have all of these metrics that you can choose from. If you want to, you can X all that out, and then select just the ones that you want. So let's say I want to see the passes, crosses, cross percentage, XA per 90, non-penalty XG, touches in box, shots blocked, and fouls per 90. So we submit those, and then these will automatically be grouped in their metric groupings. So you can see the spaces that get created, just based on like, is it passing stuff, is it creation, defensive, etc. And so you can create your own custom radar. If you want to, you can go back pre-made, submit the options. Once you go back to pre-made, your custom settings will go away. If you then choose to go to custom radar again, I apologize for that. I have not found out a way in Streamlit to save your custom settings. So please work with me as I try to potentially figure that out. But yeah, you can see now we're back to the standard pre-made radar for a winger or general attacker. Kind of talked about the player list. This again has all the players. You can export this to kind of see. It doesn't have any more information than literally like the player, like their name, their age, their team, their positions, how many minutes they played, whether they're on loan or not, and then their nationality according to Wyscout. And that's what goes into this certain nationalities. So this player would show up for both Swedish players and Iraqi players. So the next thing we have search filters. This you can choose strikers, wingers, central midfielders. If you want all DM, CM, and attacking mids, or just the defensive and central midfielders. So choose what you want, and then they have to meet the position bucket that you've chosen. And these are sliders, so you can choose players that want to be the 54th percentile at least for a short, medium pass completion percentage. Maybe you also want them to play a number of passes. And let's say you want them to be a little bit decent as well on long pass completion. Once you've selected your filters, submit them, then go over to the next tab, player search results, and you'll only have the players that meet the league, the season, the minimum minutes threshold, and then your position buckets, as well as then whatever filters that you've set. These are minimum percentile thresholds. And you can see I've used the same color scheme on this table. These are only the players that are meeting all of that criteria. Same ones, the elites, below average, average, and above average. You can export this as well. Streamlit allows you to export this. And then you can kind of turn this into a full screen view if you want to be able to see everything a little bit easier. You can go back here as well and reset the sliders. Give it a second. You can see it's running. It'll update. And it doesn't deal with the positions. It'll only update your sliders. It resets them to 0 so that you can go through. There's a lot of them. So if it's a little bit difficult to scroll and see, like if you miss one, you can just go back up at the top and click reset. So after that, the next one are scatter plots. So you can say, let's see the same position buckets, and I want to see maybe non-penalty expected goals per 90, and maybe their expected assists per 90, and then again on let's have the points be colored by the age. And then the color scale. So this is right now red, yellow, green. So red is the lowest value. So for age, that would mean the youngest players get red. You can also check this -R, which means it's reversed. So it's red, yellow, green, R, which means it's reversed. Submit options. Anytime that you change any of these things, submit options. And these will update to show just strikers in Allsvenskan this season with at least 900 minutes played, with non-penalty expected goals per 90 on X, expected assists per 90 on Y, with age from the youngest is dark green, the oldest is going to be dark red. And then this is Plotly, the Plotly package. If you want to just zoom in on like the upper right, you can click and drag, and then you can see that. You can hover over them and see a lot of their different demographic information. You can double click to then bring everything back out if you've zoomed out. You can also, zoom in on just a very small amount. I think that just about covers it. Again, roll score definitions is what you should be looking at if you have any questions on any of the roll scores, like what they mean. And then finally, to make it a little bit easier on everyone, because I don't have things like Sweden, Allsvenskan, I just have Allsvenskan. Something like Indonesia is BRI Liga 1. So if you're trying to see not just what leagues are covered, but what the names are, I have this available leagues at the very bottom right, or very the far right side of the tabs. You can hover over. You can see the U.S. We have 4 total leagues. They're color coded just so you can see where I have the most leagues sorted. You can see within the U.S. we have 4 leagues. That's MLS, MLS Next Pro, USL Championship, and USL League One. I want to say that for the United Kingdom, it's not England and Scotland and stuff like that. But within the UK, you have Championship, National League, the Scottish League 1, Scottish League 2, stuff like that. You can see what leagues are included. Russia, Kazakhstan, China, you hover over them so you can see what they're called. So you see it's called China League 1. So you can click on that, and then everything will load up. If you want to switch to women's leagues, you can go up here, just change to women, and then this will update as well. It'll say the available women's leagues. That will change, so you can see what leagues we have available for the women's game. So I hope that covers everything. Please read the instructions before you kind of reach out to me if you have any questions, because it should be step-by-step instructions with pretty much everything covered. And then last thing I want to say is to reiterate, if you do run into any complications, go to the top right, click rerun, because it's very possible that given the traffic that the app currently has, or just sometimes the size of the data for some leagues, it can kind of quirk out. So go to top right, click rerun, and that should hopefully load up your image again. And then the final thing would be, if you're on mobile, you might see in the top left, not a sidebar, but a little triangle. Click that, and that'll bring up the sidebar. It works for the PC as well, but on mobile, I think it defaults to this blank screen. So if you're wondering where everything is, it's just on the left. Click the triangle. So thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope that you enjoy this free app. I'm not planning on putting it behind a paywall, so enjoy it. Reach out to me if you have any questions, and I'd love to see what you guys create with this. So good luck and happy scouting.